Welcome to another edition, the Sunday edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight. We are here today with an old friend, Carol Morgan, who runs a media outlet called the Atlanta Real Estate Forum radio show. Did I say that correctly?
That's correct. That'll work.
Awesome. So I'm not going to say how long Carol
I was going to say, don't you go there.
No,
We've only known each other for
a
few years, just a few years.
A couple of years. I think there was a zoo involved, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's been since PRSA Younger Professionals. Do they even still have that?
They do. It's not as cool as it was when we were in charge.
Can't possibly be as cool.
Because younger professionals aren't as cool as we were.
That's right.
So what I want to do is, we're going to go through our four questions, but let me start with just tell me, what is the Atlanta Real Estate Forum radio show? What is it about, and what do you guys like to cover?
Yeah, so it's a podcast. It's mostly new home focused. So we focus on builders and developers and land planners and anyone who's working in the new home industry. So that's the focus of my main business. So that's also the focus of the radio show. So we have one segment called All About Real Estate, and it focuses on real estate. And then we have a second segment that's called Around Atlanta. And that's the segment that all my PR buddies seem to like, because that's where I feature, your events, your client that has a great event coming up, or they're a nonprofit, or we've featured all sorts of stuff. If it's happening in Atlanta and it's a reason that somebody loves Atlanta and loves to live here, then it's applicable for that section of the show.
Yeah. And how long have you been doing the show?
Oh my gosh, this podcast is 10 years old. We're hitting our 1,000th episode on March 31.
That's awesome.
It's crazy.
So I guess you mentioned something that kind of reminds me I should kind of give a little background about you in general. So you are not a full-time internet radio host. You have another business too, right?
Correct.
What's that other business?
Yeah, so I'm founder and president of Denim Marketing. We are a marketing agency, very content focused, because my background is, more years than I'm going to mention in PR. So for our clients, we do PR, branding, social media, blogging, and then, some online advertising and, of course, lots of email marketing. We typically say if it can be written, we write it. We focus on quality content for clients.
And do you have a particular industry focus area that you like?
Most of our clients are in the home building space. So home builders, temporary staffing services that, agencies that staff for home builders, interior designers. We do, a little bit of B2B and B2C in that space. So
that's what we call a leading question, right?
It's a very leading question. Yes. Yeah.
And you have kind of what I think is kind of a unique business setup. You're in Cartersville, right?
Yep.
And you have a couple of animals in the background there.
Yes, my chief security officer, Champ, is back there. He's, I think, on this side. And I don't want to call the other one too loudly because he'll be right here beside me. But my chief happiness officer, Zen, is also down here with me.
All right. And I saw at least one cat.
Yes. Yes, Tiger King is down here, or TK for short. So, when we adopted you can't say she was feral, but we adopted a cat that was wandering around a friend of mine's neighborhood early on during COVID. And her name is Smudge, but all of her kittens have Corona themed names. So we have Corona SARS of 17 animals that are on premise here. I have a 20-acre farm. So 5 of them are horses. Only 3 of the horses are mine. I have a couple of friends that keep their horses here with me. So 5 horses, a mini donkey, which he has his own fan club. Mitch is a member of the club. We call him Donkey. He once had a real name, but it just didn't stick. So if you think about the personality of the donkey on Shrek, that is absolutely my donkey. He's a brilliant, gorgeous white stallion, and that all the ladies love him. And he's not much bigger than my dogs is the reality, because he's a mini. So let's see, horses, there's 7 cats here. So you could call me the crazy cat lady, I guess. 2 dogs, a turtle, and a bird. And somebody can total that and tell me if that hits 17, but that should be it.
I may run through the numbers later.
Double check me and see if I got everybody. Don't want to leave any of the babies out, but I laugh. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, you've got so many animals. I laugh. I feel like I work for them half the time. They tell me what they want, tell me what they need.
And you've got a great work city. You've got a big barn out your window there.
Yep.
I may ask you for a picture of that to include in here too.
Okay, happy to do it.
So obviously the pandemic is kind of affected how a lot of people do their work. How has it affected how you do your show?
It has, oh, wow, it's been a 180 for us. So we always had our guests come in studio, which is nice because, you sit with them and it's more of a conversation. And,
right.
Even though you were asking them to sit behind a microphone and maybe have a headset on, they're, not quite as nervous because you've got that human interaction. So that part of it I miss. I miss seeing the people in person and being able to interact with them. So we shifted the show to Zoom, which has worked really well. It has some huge pros for it as well. So it no longer matters whether guests are in Atlanta or not. I mean, obviously we're still focused on Atlanta. So I'd prefer that they have a relationship to Atlanta or to the new home industry in some shape, form, or fashion. But it's allowed me to interview a lot of people that we wouldn't have even been able to consider before because they were never in Atlanta. And then much like this, we record over Zoom just like you do. So we have an audio track now and a video track. So for our guests who are comfortable being on video, we'll also use the video in the segments, unless there's, again, we're audio and podcast first. So if they mess up 2 million times and it's just not usable, we don't want to spend a lot of time editing it. So.
Well, and I guess if you're an event that's coming to Atlanta, but they're not here yet, you can Zoom and record them 3 months ahead of time and get it in the can, and
so much easier.
Having to wait till they're here. Yeah,
yeah.
No, there's a lot of pluses here. Yeah. So the third question is always about something cool or fun that folks might not know about you, and I kind of think we covered that.
You've already outed me.
Hobby. You've got 17 animals and things you collect. Well, obviously,
animals.
You're the Dr. Doolittle of Cartersville there.
So I guess a lot of people probably don't know that I ride dressage. So that's the equestrian discipline where the horses look like they're dancing.
Right.
And the horse that I ride, her name is Johanna. We call her Hannah for short. And Hannah is a homebred, which means I owned her mother and I bred her mother to a stallion. And it's how my son learned all about, his sex ed was all from us breeding horses. Although he's going to be embarrassed if he ever sees this or knows I did this to him. Everything was done artificially. So it would come in a blue container. And so, so he wasn't quite sure about the special sauce for a while. But anyway,
I can incorporate video. I can incorporate video.
Video there. Yeah.
If you got a little video, I can do a little voiceover thing with the horse thing. And,
So, so I'm riding my homebred. I'll try to remind her that I've had her since she wasn't, so she should behave. She's turning 15 this year. And she's a sweet horse. She's more like a big dog. She likes snuggles and she likes to be pet and she wants you to tell her that she's pretty and give her cookies. But we are competing at third level this year, which is kind of the make it or break it level for horses and riders, because there's some things that they must learn in order to compete successfully at this level that are, a little harder. It's kind of like, think about a gymnast. You don't go out there the second time you show and do, forward, flips in the air or, go on the balance beam and do all these things. It's all these skills that build upon each other. So we have been building for the last 5 years to get to where we are now. So it's kind of cool.
So is your competition, are they usually in Georgia or do you have to travel a bit to go to this?
I stay in Georgia. It just is so expensive to show. So I show U.S. Dressage Federation, and those are also, USEF shows. So typically Conyers or, Callaway Garden area. There's a nice facility there. And every now and then I'll go to Tennessee. There's a nice facility that's just, across the state line practically.
And how long have you been riding?
Oh my goodness. I've been riding off and on since I was 5. So, yeah. So dressage for the past 20 something years. So
okay.
Yeah.
So for the show, are there some topics that you got in your head going, I really want to cover these kinds of issues or these kinds of topics, kind of looking down the road a little bit?
There's a couple of things that I haven't been able to find anyone to give me a great source for. So 3D printing. I keep reading about these 3D printed houses you can actually buy now, but I can't get anyone at the company to call me back. I would love to have somebody that has 3D printed a house.
We'll find you somebody there.
So not just medical devices or whatever somebody comes and says. I'd like to talk to people who 3D printed a house or 3D printed anything that goes into a house.
Right.
So that, technology, I think, is going to be one of the ways out of all these increased building supply, you look at the cost of lumber and you look at the cost of plumbing, and you look at all these costs escalating. And I think technology and 3D printing and some of the new technologies and new tactics, even on the job site, are going to help lower costs. So anything like that, I'm interested,
Okay.
always interested in affordable housing. Not just affordable housing, which a lot of people think Section 8, but housing affordability. So the fact that you and I and everybody listening to this, we all have the right to the ability to buy a house we can afford. So, in Atlanta, 300,000 is about the going rate for a new home. And there's lots of reasons why. A lot of that is government regulation. So if anyone ever wants to get on and talk about how we change some of that, all the zoning laws, all the different things that are added, impact fees, all of that. And I love talking about the economy. I'm a statistics nerd, so that's always fun. I'm trying to think what else. And then from the events perspective, anything that's coming up, especially with all of our crazy COVID mess that we've had for the last year, if you've got a nonprofit client that has a virtual event coming up, maybe they have a virtual fundraiser, maybe they're starting to plan real in-person fundraisers, a cool new restaurant opening, 5K race. I'm trying to think what all we've done. I mean, we've had the aquarium on. We've got, I think the History Center is scheduled to come on. We've had the Children's Museum of Atlanta on. There's so many cool attractions. So, anything like that has a big opening coming up.
Taking notes here.
Yes. So, and you've provided me with some fantastic clients too. So, workforce housing I'm passionate about, and then also training the future workers. So, how do we educate parents and students that it's okay to have a blue collar job, that electrician, you're going out and getting that certification. That kid who gets that certification and works under somebody else for 4 or 5 years can then go on to own their own, company where they make, 6 digits easily, running the show. So
yeah, sounds like you've been talking to somebody in the construction field.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We talk a lot of people in the construction fields. You have a great client I enjoy talking to in that.
Yeah. I think you talked to them I think you did talk to them
last month. Yeah. So
I think, I think you just taped that the other day. All right, so
can't keep up with it.
It's funny. Some reporters always tell me, sometimes they'll write a story and they submit it, and then they don't know where it ends up or when it airs or when it runs sometimes. And I don't always. I usually can plan these a week or two ahead, but sometimes people go, "When is this going to run?" It's like, okay, I think it's going to run this week, but you've got a little more of a schedule with yours than sometimes than I do with mine.
Well, we try, and it's hard. It is a bit of a production. You know how that goes, but we do. We plan a month at a time, a month in advance. We record a month at a time, which a lot of people probably don't know. So I have already recorded all March shows. We're recorded through. Actually, I think our April 1st show may be recorded too. So if you've got something coming up, then think a month out. Just pretend I'm a magazine. So what we found is, by recording and doing it that way, it gives me the ability that if a guest is sick, I can still, especially now that we're on Zoom, we can schedule them for a couple of weeks later, or, I can bump them to a future show, and it gives me time to find somebody to replace them. Because when we were recording closer to in real time when they aired, it just didn't give us a margin of error for, any no shows or any problems that come up. And, this is the real world. Things happen.
Right. At least usually we don't have to worry about traffic as much as we used to in terms of getting to interviews and getting to your studio, right?
Right. Well, and I'll say my show producer loves it because he lives in Chicago now, so he's not having to fly down and back and deal with airports or any of the rest of that. So,
all right. So now we get to the lightning round.
Okay.
So fun things about Carol. So, You said you may not be able to answer this one, but last book read.
Well, I'm reading this one right now. I'll show it to you. It's up here. It should be down here. I'm not getting very far through it, but this is what I'm working on now is Robot Proof. And it's I'm on the Hammock School of Business board for Oglethorpe University. And this is one of the things they're really focusing on for their students is how, higher education really aids to help you have a job and, to teach you strategic thinking and, all the things you need to know to be, protect yourself from being replaced by a robot in the future.
Right. All right.
Cool book.
favorite Atlanta restaurant or favorite
Oh my
Cartersville restaurant? Doesn't have to be
gosh.
Atlanta.
All right, Cartersville, and I don't know that I can say favorite. We're really fortunate for such a little small town. We have two or three or four restaurants I love that are all locally owned. So I guess Appalachian Grill would be number one. Number
All
two
right.
is owned by the same people, 8 Track. Love City Cellar. Love Moore's Market. We've got a fantastic Thai place here, which may be my favorite restaurant, Sriracha Thai. And then I shouldn't leave out my friends over at Table 20. So
Okay.
we've got quite, and almost all of those are walkable from one to another. So if you go park downtown and one has a wait, just go visit the next one.
There you go. All right. Favorite guilty pleasure?
Cheese dip.
Cheese dip.
So,
Okay.
I would say that's probably not the only one, but I love cheese dip, chocolate, Captain and Coke.
All right.
Yeah, that's
Favorite
probably.
All right. Favorite local getaway other than the barn?
Oh my gosh, probably the barn. I feel like I really haven't been anywhere, but I guess in the land of non-COVID, one of my favorite things to do is if I have a meeting downtown or an early morning meeting, I'd get somebody to come here and, horse house barn sit and go stay at any fun, nice hotel that I could find around the perimeter or downtown on Priceline and just enjoy the restaurants in those areas and see the sights and get out. That is the one thing that, I love living in the country, but I miss Atlanta. And for, Mitch has known me forever. I've lived in Sandy Springs and Marietta, Virginia Highlands. I've been all over the city. So, there's lots of different haunts I like to revisit. So that's probably my favorite thing to do.
All right. And last question, we'll see if this is different from what we talked about before, but favorite non-work hobby?
It's going to be riding my horse, dressage by far. It's pretty much my main hobby. If I'm not doing that, I try to find time to do some gardening. I'll always plant a little, I call it a kitchen garden in the summer, and at least grow peppers and tomatoes, and usually grow squash. Even if I don't plant anything else, those three are kind of staples.
Very good. So. All right. So if someone wants to get a story idea to you for the show, what's the best way to do that?
Probably the best way is just to email me, carol@denimmarketing.com.
Okay.
So,
we'll add the graphic in there. And and the website URL, people want to watch and listen.
If you want to check it out, just go to AtlantaRealEstateForumRadio.com.
Okay. Excellent. So anything else? The open-ended question, open-ended final question. Anything else about you or the show that we haven't talked about that you want to mention?
Golly, I could say that, food, when we used to be in studio, food would be the way to our heart. I mean, I can tell you that Chicken Salad Chick came on more than once and always brought us phenomenal samples. So if we ever get back in studio, feel free to, bring us cool restaurants and bring us food.
I think cheese dip is going to be next delivery to Carol. Excellent. Well, we've been talking with Carol Morgan. Carol, thanks for taking some time with us. And everyone else, come back next Sunday for another edition of our 4 Questions Journalist Spotlight.